What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, joined as always by Tyler Stafford. And if you are watching on YouTube, we have upgraded because we like you guys that much. We have upgraded. We've switching over to a new podcast production app, that's something that they call it. I don't know. I don't do technology, which you'll find out as you watch this podcast, because you'll see my eyes going in 18 different directions. You'll see me freaking out that I'm not hitting the right buttons. So bear with me, bear with us. If you're watching on YouTube, as always, like the video. It very much helps us out. Like the video, comment on the video. I'm sure you'll comment about Isak Paredes and me being unable to click buttons, because that's kind of how it's been going. Tyler, I'm sorry to delay this by 35 minutes because I didn't know how to work this thing. How are you?
Hey, I am with you, man. I also logged in to this app, and it felt like, in Minority Report, where Tom Cruise is up there just moving. I mean, the whole screen was full of buttons and widgets. And listen, we're simple folk, and that was too many buttons. Not even buttons, I guess. They're not even physical. I can't even flip a switch. They're just hidden in my screen. So I appreciate you piloting this, Chandler, because I certainly could not.
Yeah. This is very this is just it's a lot. This is a lot happening. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Everybody will look back at this and laugh in like 2 months when
they're giving us our Emmys.
Oh yeah, we already won like kind of an Emmy, right? We won a belt.
We
buckle.
did. We did. It's a cool belt buckle.
We did. Yeah, my belt buckle's like sitting. I don't own a belt, so it's tough.
What do you mean you don't own a belt?
I don't wear belts. I
What?
I very rarely tuck my shirts in. I very rarely tuck my shirts in, and I just don't wear a belt.
Your jeans fit you well enough that you don't need a belt?
I don't wear jeans, so.
Okay. Wait, so you're in like slacks or chinos or whatever every day without a belt?
I mean, are we really going off on this tangent?
Like, we are. What's happening? I don't even understand.
I wear like Lululemon pants every day. Like, you don't need belts
for
that. You don't need belts.
Okay.
I dress like
you don't.
I dress like a major league scout. All right. I wear Lululemon dress pants to work every day. Like, this is not something that needs a belt around it.
I mean, listen, I work from home. I have a nice shirt that I hang just off to the side here. I'm in t-shirts and shorts every single day, so I can't speak to that, but I do own a belt. So that's what I was curious about. Anyway, what's up with the Astros?
Well, they are currently finishing up their final exhibition game of the season. They are playing the Sugarland Space Cowboys at Daikin Park. Jeremy Pena just hit a ball off the train tracks, which has to bode well for his availability on opening day. But as of this recording, we do not know if Jeremy Pena will be on the opening day roster. That is the last real decision that the Astros have to make. They made one earlier today by telling Christian Vasquez he's made the team and telling Cesar Salazar he has not made the team. If you have listened to this podcast for any point of the last 2.5 months, you knew that was coming because
you were ahead of the game.
Yes. Cesar Salazar's a great guy, revered in the clubhouse. I'm not sure if he's going to clear waivers, but if he does, the Astros are going to love to get him back in the organization. But it was just not a situation in which they thought they could play him as much as this position is going to require playing. They went with the more sure thing. And I also wouldn't discount the fact that Christian Vasquez can help Yainer Diaz in a lot of different ways. This is a guy that's been in the big leagues 10 years. He's been doing this for a very long time. Having that kind of steady hand. I know no one wants me to invoke the name of another Puerto Rican catcher that was here for a very long time and that was very influential and had a guiding hand in all the meetings. But yes, Christian Vasquez could function just like Martin Maldonado did. Playing less, obviously. I think fans will be happy to hear that. But playing less.
I thought you were talking about El Oso Blanco. That's the one I was picturing. But yes, Maldonado, I guess.
Yes, he's gonna. They hope that Christian Vasquez can function kind of in that role again as a backup, not playing every day, but as someone that can help Yainer Diaz kind of through a 162 game season. prepping in pregame meetings and things like that. What Victor Caratini did to an extent last year too, because Victor Caratini is an older established catcher. That's not what Cesar Salazar is. So they went with the more established, proven guy over Salazar, which again, if you've listened to this for any length of time, you knew that was going to how it was going to come down, but just the timing of it, not getting Christian Vasquez into camp until after the WBC, not getting him till late, like it kind of dragged this out. But this was always going to be the outcome. They were always going to try to find someone else, someone more established to take that backup catcher role.
Yeah, and this is a really big year for Yainer Diaz and his development. This is his first year of arbitration, so he's earning $4.5 million this year. And as we've talked about, he does not play catcher nearly as often as most starting catchers. Some of that is just having Victor Caratini here and trying to find spots for that, but a lot of it has been maybe not trusting him behind the plate, or the bat just goes so cold that you can't start him every game. And he's gonna make a whole lot more than that next season, and then you have one more season after that. So yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to think, okay, we're going to bring somebody in, really hammer home how to be a great defender. What does it mean to make it through an entire season as a catcher, and somebody who's not going to feel like they're needing to eat into those innings. But I mean, in order for the Astros to commit the amount of money that they're going to need to Diaz for the next 2 years, they need to see him catch 140 games, 130 games this year and hit well consistently.
I don't think 140 is going to happen.
No.
I'd probably go around 115, 110. But yeah, look, Yainer Diaz has made strides as a defensive catcher. His, the one thing you could knock him on was framing, but ABS is now here. We talked about it with Sam Nidorf a couple of pods ago, that framing hasn't completely gone obsolete because of ABS, but it will be less prominent now. He's always had good pop times. He's always had a good arm back there. The pitchers have not helped him out with their times to the plate in terms of controlling the running game. But all of Yainer Diaz, not all of, I'd say 80% of Yainer Diaz's value is tied to his bat. Like, he needs to hit. He needs to hit. And if he hits, they will be able to live with everything else. Like, everything else will take care of itself if he hits. They need him to hit. They need a lot of people to hit. And I think that's probably the most apt way to begin this. This is going to be a season preview pod, just looking at what Tyler and I think are the three main kind of storylines and objectives about this club, and about where things can maybe get better, where things can, where they are going to determine their fate. And I think maybe, Tyler, since we started talking about the lineup, that was what was brought up with Vasquez. Let's start there. Let's start with the lineup. Again, I don't think we can overstate what a healthy Yordan Alvarez will do for this lineup. Like, I wrote it yesterday. Since he debuted in 2019, only Aaron Judge has a higher WRC plus. Only Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani have higher slugging percentages than Yordan Alvarez. I don't know why, but for some reason, it seems he's almost a little forgotten, not thought about in that realm of elite hitters, in that realm of top 5, top 10 hitters in baseball. Like, you have a top 5 hitter in baseball on your team. Just having him upright and having him able to play 120, 130 games is going to change the complexion of everything about this lineup, especially compared to what it did last year.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think part of the under-talked about part, or undervalued part of Yordan is he doesn't have like eye-popping stat numbers. He doesn't have a 50 homer season. He doesn't lead the league in RBIs by a significant margin or something that people would notice. He's just such a good hitter all the time. I mean, it's a similar issue to people understanding Mike Trout's greatness, where it's like so much of Yordan's greatness is that he's just one of the best hitters on the field every day, even when he's not performing, he's still one of the best hitters every single time that he's out there. He doesn't, he's just very, very consistently good. And yeah, if you can play him for 130, 140 games, like your team, the floor for your team's offense is so much higher because you can just rely on somebody that is going to take great at bats day in and day out. But yeah, so much of the team's offense this year relies on Yordan. So actually, this is one thing I want to. We're going to attempt to bring up this screenshot now.
Dear.
We
All
can
right,
do it.
let's see.
I believe in us. So I've got a screenshot up.
Hey, there
Yeah,
we
we
go.
did it. This is from Baseball Savant, and this is last season's stats versus their expected stats. So I'm over here in this right column where it's WOBA, which is essentially the quality of contact that you make plus like the slugging that goes with it. So it's kind of a good overall. It's similar like OPS, but it's more based on your plate discipline and the quality of contact rather than results. So I sorted over here by the biggest difference between what their WOBA was versus what their expected WOBA was. And so Yordan had a good season anyway. He had a 338 WOBA. So again, just kind of think of this along the lines of batting average. Like that's a really good WOBA, but his expected WOBA was 393. So he had by far the biggest discrepancy between what you would think that he was going to do based on his quality of contact versus what he actually did. So that's another reason to think this can be a real breakout season for Yordan, coming off kind of a disappointing year. But a healthy Yordan is just one of the best hitters on the planet.
It's low-key hilarious that you just said Yordan Alvarez, the unanimous Rookie of the Year in 2019, needs a breakout season. But
I mean, like we said, he's not the one that you think of for
right.
The best hitter in baseball. I don't think anyone outside of Houston would make that argument on a regular basis, but there's no reason that he shouldn't be thought of that way. I mean, if you watch him day in and day out, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. And I think I would take him over. I think I would take him over any other player. If it's down to the wire, you need one big at bat that you can rest your season on. I don't think there's anybody else that I would want in there than Yordan.
And if you're listening to this in audio form and you're not watching on YouTube, I'll try to give you a little bit of what this graphic is that we have up. Tyler explained WOBA and xWOBA. xWOBA is basically like, again, the expected stats as opposed to, what you put out there, your WOBA. It's interesting to me that you're looking down on this list, and the last three guys on this list are Jeremy Pena, Jose Altuve, and Isaac Paredes. Three guys that figure to play pivotal roles in this lineup. Three guys that you look at, they were the three guys that probably got a little fortunate last year. If just by looking at this metric, that their expected numbers, their expected WOBA was lower than their actual WOBA. Now, what does that mean? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, probably not a whole lot. Look, I mean, luck is part of this thing. BABIP is part of this thing. It helps when you put the ball in play. They still have to pick it up and throw it to first base. They still have to play an accurate game of catch, the defense that is. But Tyler, again, the lineup last year was the Achilles heel, right? It led to off-season changes. They have a whole new hitting infrastructure in here. We had Dan Hennigan on this podcast earlier in the offseason to talk about his role. They've got Victor Rodriguez and Anthony Iapoce helping him out. But at the end of the day, obviously Alvarez, they hope will be healthy and play the 130, 140 games they need him to play, but they're running it back otherwise. There is no other meaningful offensive addition. Sure, Joey Loperfido, sure, but I as of this moment, I'd say he profiles more as a fourth outfielder. I'd say he's probably going to, face some right-handed pitching and, spell guys, but you look at this lineup and they're running it back. Do you have hope that just having Yordan Alvarez back is going to be the thing that solves this lineup, that gets the production where it needs to be?
I mean, I think it's probably too simplistic to just say yes. That having that glue and having the guy in the middle of your lineup that you can count on. Because if you think about last season, yes, it's the same players, but they didn't play together for most of the time. There were so many. I mean, Cam Smith was hitting cleanup like 3 weeks into his big league career. There was a lot of younger guys that were being asked to do a lot for the team, and sometimes their natural talent would just kind of get through, and sometimes it looks like the moment was too big for them, and it would, they would get a couple strikeouts in a row, and it was like everybody would fall apart because everybody was feeling like this need to overperform. There's something to be said about just knowing every day the top 5 or 6 hitters in your lineup are going to be some form of just veteran players. Like there's no scenario where any of these young, Jake, any of the outfielders are going to be hitting above 7th, 8th, and 9th unless they are doing so well that it seems clear that they should be moved up there. But you're not dropping Carlos Correa to the 7th spot. Like, unless again somebody is earning it, but they're never going to be asked to be up there unless they have hit their way into that situation. And I think so much of last year's offensive troubles was just they did not have that steady, ability to avoid those 4 or 5 game stretches where just everybody looks so tense and they can't, get to where they need to be offensively.
I'm going to reiterate what I said, throughout the offseason and even in the spring training. The Astros can preach all they want that they're going to get back to their identity, right? They're going to get back to not swinging as much and swinging at strikes, not swinging at balls, things of that nature. At the end of the day, like the offensive profiles that they have in this lineup remain the same offensive profiles from last year. They traded Mauricio Dubon this winter. He was as free swinging a player as there is in baseball. They got, obviously, Jesus Sanchez is no longer on the team. He was a guy that contributed to some of that too. But look, Jose Altuve is going to swing at everything. Jeremy Pena swings a lot. Yainer Diaz is going to swing at everything. Will they make minor? Can they get incrementally better at that? Sure. But I'm not sure that you're going to see a team that's going to go out here and make a starter throw 100 pitches through 4 innings every night. Like, I find it hard to believe that within 2 months that these guys are going to start becoming patient, that they're going to start becoming selective. The profiles are what the profiles are. I think what they need to do a better job of, and Joe Espada has hinted at this a few times, and I think reading between the lines, I think this is what he's trying to say. They need to get situationally better. Like, you can be a free swinger. That can be your like Jose Altuve can be as free swinging as he wants. Like, that can be your profile throughout a 162 game season, but they've got to do a little bit better job, like in game, understand, like look at this pitcher the second time through. If he's spraying the ball everywhere, go up there with the bat on your shoulder, take till you get a strike. Or like, even in the types of swings that they take, if you only need a ground ball to the right side to advance a runner to third, hit a ground ball to the right side to advance a runner to third. Like, you don't have to be. And I think when Joe and Dana talked this offseason about they got away from their identity, sure, like everyone could look at the pitches per plate appearance and the swing rates and the chase rates and the lack of walks, and that's part of it. But I think it was also that they say all the time it's a pass the baton mentality. That's what they have preached since this era began about. That's what they want their offense to be, a pass the baton kind of situational. This guy has a good at bat, then this guy goes up and moves him to second with a ball to the right side, or runner at third, less than 2 outs. This guy goes up, gets a ball to the outfield, gets a ball to right field, gets a run home. Like, that is the stuff, in my opinion, that they are really zeroing in on improving on, not just this blanket, swing at less balls and swing at more strikes.
Yeah, and the way that you can trust situational hitting too is if you trust the guys behind you in the lineup to put together good at bats. It's a lot easier for Jose Altuve to say, I'm just going to try to ground to the right side because I know I have Correa and Yordan behind me, as opposed to I have Cam Smith and Jake Myers behind me, which is what a lot of last season was. So again, I think that's where having just the amount of veterans that can take good at bats. Again, Jose Altuve is going to swing wherever, but that doesn't mean that he can't think, okay, like we were talking about, like I'm going to try to push it this way because I know I can make contact with everything because there's a guy on second and no outs and we need one run, whatever. And I've got two guys behind me that I really trust. So I think that runs through. There is something, kind of weaving a lineup together. There's a skill to making a lineup more than just, left-handed, right-handed, fast guy up top, whatever. There is a skill to it, and it's just hard to do when you had as many injuries as you did last season for the Astros, especially to the heart of their lineup. I mean, look what happened when Isaac Paredes went out. Even though, he's not close to the type of hitter that Yordan is, when you lose that, just you can trust this guy to make a pitcher work and to have a great at bat when we need it. When you lose that, everybody starts pressing, and you see a lot of the skids that you saw with the Astros last season.
We'll talk about the pitching staff right after this message from our friends at Foul Territory.
This is it, Kratz. Opening weekend of the season, and if you're looking for tickets for an MLB game and they're either sold out or you're just a little bit lost and you need some help, SeatGeek is there for you. It's not just a spot where you buy the tickets. It's where you feel good about buying the tickets because they have your back with their features.
And you're going to get a good price. That's the deal that everybody's looking for. But especially early in the season up here in the Northeast, you kind of want to go to a day game where you're still going to be in the sun. It might shift during the summer, but hey, you know what? SeatGeek will let you know exactly where you're sitting and if it's a good spot to watch the game.
That's right. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. And of course, we have a code for you. You can use code Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later.
How about the roof being open for the two exhibition games? Speaking of SeatGeek,
about time.
The weather for this, I have not gotten any intel to let me know whether the roof will be open for this 4-game set against the Angels. But if you look at the weather, just my iPhone weather app, it would seem to indicate that the weather will cooperate if they want to open the roof for one or all of those games. So if you want outdoor
open
baseball,
roof on opening day, what is more American? I mean, we deserve this. That thing better be open. I don't care that it's 3:00 in the afternoon. It's not that hot yet. We want to be outside. If it's as nice as it's been, let me sit outside and watch baseball. By the way, I'm going. I got that email. So I will be there. I will be there at opening day. Y'all come say hi. I won't be up in the ivory tower with Chandler, but I'll be walking around. I got to see what this new mural looks like. I'm excited.
This shtick carries on another year. You gotta get your selfie with Orbit doing whatever Orbit's going to be doing on that mural. We've talked for a while on this about the foolishness of believing spring training stats. But the Astros rotation pitched very, 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 very well in spring. How good are they? How good is this rotation? Are we being too captivated by the moment of Mike Burrows almost going 19 innings without allowing a run? Are we being captivated by Tetsuya Imai touching 98 out of nowhere? Like, Lance McCullers pitched very well today against Sugarland. If you watch that start, I mean, I know he gave up 2 runs, but if you watched some of those hits he gave up, the exit velos on him were like 50 miles an hour. He gave up a lot of cheap hits, a lot of dink and dunk hits. He looked very good today again. Where are we? Do you put stock in that? Do you think, because I left spring training pretty bullish on this rotation. Like, I think this can be a top half of the league rotation?
Yeah. So before I give that, you mentioned people being lower on the Astros rotation. So just for fun, on Fangraphs, you can see the projected WAR by batters and pitchers. The Astros are in the bottom half. They're like 17th or 18th in pitching WAR. And Fangraphs on Baseball Prospectus in their Pacoda, they had the Astros finishing 12th out of 15 in the American League, the pitching staff. And I just don't. I don't think they can be that bad.
No.
I'm not saying that. Here's the deal: when you have a bottomed out rotation, when a rotation is just a problem, it's when you've got one or two guys you can count on, and then just a black hole for 3 days, and it's just a nightmare. And you just feel like you're out of those games. You feel like you have to win every single game started by your top guys. The Astros feel like they have like 10 guys that can put up at least an okay, like a competitive start. And that's all you need, really. Like, as long as you're in the game with your starter, you should be fine. There's so much fluctuation or whatever, but if you have a guy that you can trust to get you 5 2/3 and give up like 3 runs, you would take that every single day. And the Astros are just chock full of those guys right now. Some of them have higher ceilings. Like, I mean, Imai could be awesome. If he's pumping 98, people don't figure out this slider, the splitter to go with it. Like, there's a chance that he just, finishes at the top 10 in Cy Young voting and, all of that. You could like squint and imagine that for Mike Burrows if the changeup is just unhittable and the tinkering with the fastball does something similar to Hunter Brown a couple years ago. But that's not somebody that you're like betting. You would be a little bit you could see it with Imai. It would take a miracle for Burrows, but it's not out of the question. But then you just have so many guys behind that you're like, well, if somebody gets hurt or somebody's not performing, this other person can do a good job. And as long as you have that for an entire season, you're going to be a top half pitching staff. And if that's the reason that, the projections are down on the Astros, I think they could easily outperform their team win total projections just because I don't see the pitching rotation. I don't see a scenario where they're that bad.
I think this is the strength of the team.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really debatable. I mean, you could argue with me about the infield just because of the names that are on the infield when you have a future Hall of Famer playing second base, when you have, Jeremy Pena playing shortstop, when you can play Isaac Paredes at first base on some days, and when you have Carl. Like, I could hear an argument that the infield's the strength of the team, but in my opinion, the rotation is going to be the strength of this team. I think where some of the projections are coming from that have them lower, and this is a valid concern, and it's the reason why I started this by asking, were we held captive by spring training stats? Excuse me. Tatsuya Imai's never thrown a major league pitch.
Yeah.
Mike Burrows has 99 1/3 innings of major league experience. I don't think we need to detail what Lance McCullers' last 2.5 seasons have been like. Christian Javier is very much an unknown coming off of Tommy John and his brief return last year. I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is that, yes, like if you are a diehard Astros fan, or if you're, someone that is paid to cover them and you have been watching them pitch for 6 weeks, you're like, damn, this rotation is going to be pretty good. Like Mike, if you've watched Mike Burrows' Grapefruit League starts, like, man, this dude, like, he's carving people up. And you're watching Imai throw 98 and you're like, if you're a sicko like me and we're watching Lance McCullers face the Sugarland Space Cowboys tonight, like, it looks good, but bear in mind that the whole world is not, tuned in to every single start these guys are making. And so there is a world where, maybe the outside and the projections, look at this rotation and they say, Well, they got Hunter Brown, and then they got a bunch of who knows. And, I think that's a fair way to go. But again, as someone that has watched this and someone that has watched them pitch, and I've said this ad nauseum on this podcast, I just have blind trust in Josh Miller and now Ethan Katz. I have blind trust in the pitching development infrastructure and what they are able to do with guys because, it's funny. I had a friend text me. I did one of my roster projections a couple of weeks ago, and I had a friend who's in the industry. He's a fellow writer. I'm not going to say his name so you guys don't go running. You guys
Stephen King.
No, it was not him. I don't want to say his name so you guys don't go attack him, but he texted me. He goes, man, their bullpen. He goes, this bullpen may suck. And I said, dude, I said that last year and they had a top 5 bullpen in the sport. Like, I have just given up on thinking that an Astros pitching staff is going to be the thing that sinks them. Look, this rotation may not be, it may end up being that Mike Burrows was a Grapefruit League star and just maybe is a 3 or a 4 starter. Maybe Tetsuya Imai has a rougher than we have seen transition to Major League Baseball. But even if that happens, the one thing that has been consistent across this era, the Astros pitching staff has never been a problem. Have there been years when it hasn't been elite? Yes. But it's never been the thing that has cost them. It didn't cost them they were just as injured as the lineup last year, and it didn't cost them. Now, they kept Framber Valdez upright, so that helped. But I don't even if maybe they don't reach the projections we're thinking that this is going to be the strength of the team, I think this is a solid rotation that every day you send a guy out there, you're going to feel confident. You're going to feel confident and comfortable that you're going to get a professional outing. And like you said, when you have a bad rotation, you only feel that maybe twice through. And I just don't get that feeling with this team. And if Lance McCullers doesn't work out, or if Christian Javier's still, having trouble, or one of Burrows or Imai struggles, the one thing that they have done, they have given themselves depth. Spencer Arrighetti's going to start the season in AAA. Spencer Arrighetti's got one of the higher upsides in the system in terms of being a starter. You've seen him have success at the big league level. He's going to start the year at AAA because it's not that they don't have room for him. They're going to make room when they go to a 6-man rotation. But yes, they're opening the season without room for him. That's a good problem to have. Ryan Weiss, who pitched very well through camp, is going to be in the bullpen, who threw 180 innings in KBO last year to a sub-4 ERA. They've got Colton Gordon, Jason Alexander. They have got so much more. AJ Bluebaugh, Kaiwei Tang,
Nate Pearson.
They've got so much more depth than at any point in maybe the last 2 years, and that's what gives me maybe more hope than the projections would have you think.
Yeah, if it were just returning guys, I would feel a lot less confident. If it was, what it felt like the plan was for a lot of last year, which was hopefully Luis Garcia and Christian Javier and Lance McCullers and all these guys just get healthy and return to form, that I feel a lot less confident banking on than exactly what you said. For the last 10 years, if the Astros identify a pitcher, acquire that pitcher, and put them through whatever program that they have of why they identified this pitcher and why they picked them, that pitcher 9 times out of 10 is better than they have been. They just are. I mean, they just keep doing it. And because they acquired so many people that they're excited about, and because they've already shown just in the brief time, not even the stats, but look, again, Imai's pumping 98. All these other people are controlling their off-speed pitches. They're controlling their secondary stuff. They've added new fastball, all this stuff. You can already see that. You don't need numbers to see, you don't need the results of that necessarily from spring training. You just need to see, oh, they're throwing this, they're throwing it differently, and it looks really good. And they got 10 new pitchers that they purposely chose and have on the team. And I just trust them to make 7 or 8 of those guys really good pitchers because they do it every time.
They do. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have supreme confidence in a bullpen that's going to open the season without Josh Hader or Bennett Sousa. Bennett Sousa's would have been an important part of this bullpen. Like, he's a leverage reliever. You are opening your season down 2 leverage relievers. So, and inherently, even if they would have had Josh Hader and Bennett Sousa to start the year, the first month of a baseball season is generally when a manager is trying to figure out, all right, who can I use at what time? Who looks good? Like, because he's like, Joe Espada's got to look and see, like, all right, like, is what we saw in spring training just a product of facing bad offenses, or, was it real? And so the first month of the season, you really are always kind of shuffling with your bullpen, shuffling roles, things of that nature. So it would have always maybe been a little bit of a concern, because the bullpen, I just told the story of, there were people that thought it was going to be bad last year and they were a top 5 bullpen in the sport. But relievers are the most volatile position in baseball. They can be great. They can be great one year and be terrible the next. That's just how relievers work. There are very few Brian Abreu's out there. There are very few Josh Haders out there that just year after year put up elite to above elite seasons in the relief market. That just doesn't happen. The Astros are spoiled that they have 2 guys that do that in Abreu and Hader. But I think early in the season they're gonna have a lot of opportunities for a lot of different guys to carve some roles out, because outside of Brian Abreu being the closer to start the 2026 season, I don't know that I can identify many other roles in that bullpen for you.
Similar to the lineup thing that we were talking about, where if you just have good players at the beginning of a lineup, like, everybody else can play up to where they need to be. A bullpen operates on a similar thing, where if you just trust your 1 through 5 starters, and you don't feel like any day could be a day where the bullpen has to spring into action in the 3rd inning, you're able to focus more of your energy. You're able to perform better, because you don't feel like you have to save something in the tank, because what if tomorrow the bullpen has to cover 7 innings? When you have that depth in a rotation too, it does elevate your bullpen, because those guys know my starter is going to get us into the 5th or 6th every night. Like, 9 times out of 10, that's going to happen, because these are just good, like, quality pitchers. You're not relying on a bunch of young guys. You're not relying on, again, even if you have a rough Lance McCullers start or whatever, the next day is Emeyer, the next day is Hunter Brown, or Mike Burrows, or who, like, somebody that you're going to trust, you're going to be able to make it through. And you're not having like 3 days in a row where the bullpen might have to cover 6 innings that game.
Yeah. Again, Dana and the front office did a very nice job this offseason of just giving themselves depth, and that's why you have to feel good about this, because like you said, like, if this 5-man rotation, if it goes off the rails, or like the back end doesn't perform, like, you've got options. You can move Ryan Weiss into the rotation. You can go get Spencer Arrighetti from AAA. You've got AJ Blueball, who you could keep. I mean, he is stretched out to a point where he could start for you. If and when Nate Pearson builds up, like, you've got him. He was a former top pitching prospect in baseball. Like, they have got so much more depth to protect themselves, that they've got a lot of options that have done it before, that are established, that, I think they are in a good spot pitching wise. Will Mike Burrows begin the season on a 20-inning scoreless streak like he did in spring training? Probably not. Will Tetsuya Imai have a couple starts where, it's a new baseball, it's a new mound, it's just a different kind of feel for him, and will things go south? Yes, but they expect this. They expected this, and they helped themselves by getting a lot of depth this winter. We'll talk about the people that procured that depth this winter, and how worried they should be about their job security right after this message from our friends at Foul Territory.
Hey, it might be time to have a heart-to-heart with your phone and be like, I love you, but you cost too much.
Yeah, I'm not paying this much anymore. That's it. I mean, why would I go more than $15 a month? Mint Mobile can give that to me, and I get all the same coverage.
Exactly, and you don't have to deal with the crazy bogus fees or free perks that actually end up costing more. Mint Mobile plans for premium wireless start at just $15 a month. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/TERRITORY. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
So we've talked a lot about all the on-field storylines of this season, but the interesting thing is I think the biggest storyline of this season probably isn't on the field. I wrote this for The Athletic this morning as like my big season preview story. And, look, I would have loved to write, a nice profile of Tetsuya Imai or like a player, but if you're ignoring the fact that the manager and the general manager of this team are both not under contract for next season, and that they work for an owner that is as demanding as any in the sport, and you look at where this franchise is in its life cycle, it's hard to believe that this is not a make or break year for Dana Brown and Joe Espada, and really the direction of this franchise. I think as I put it in the story today, that there's no season in recent memory that feels more consequential for the long-term future of the Astros than this season. Let's get it out there right now. Like, Jim Crane's not stupid. Like, he knows that his GM's contract is up. He knows that his manager's contract is up. If he wanted them here long-term, they would be extended already. Like, so let's start with that there is already uncertainty as to whether these two guys are the people that are the right people to proceed in their jobs. If Jim Crane felt that way, they would both have new deals by now, because they have both expressed interest in new deals. They have both said verbatim, this offseason that they want to retire here. You've got two guys that, Joe's been here for 10 years. Dana Brown's not at the end of his career, but certainly not, he's not a young guy anymore. I mean, I think he has said he retired. This could be his last job. Like, he would like this to be his last job. These are not two guys that are looking for new work, that are, being untoward or anything. Like, they want to be here. And the fact that they're not extended just illustrates that maybe Jim Crane doesn't think that's the right move. So what can be done this season, Ty? Like, what do you think can be accomplished this season that would demonstrate, that would change Crane's mind, right? Like, because as we are sitting here talking on March 24th, it's pretty obvious that he has some uncertainty in his mind that this is the brain trust to lead this franchise forward. What could happen this season that would change his mind?
I mean, obviously, like, if they don't make the playoffs, they're both gone. And I don't know. I think for Dana Brown, I could say, if the acquisitions that he made this offseason turn out to be the best parts of this team, that bodes really well for his longevity and his ability to continue to make the Astros great. Because, a lot of the guys that are on the team are not people that he acquired or had anything to do with. So if that's who carries the team, you could look at it a different way. But if it's these new, pitching acquisitions, if some of these guys just make big strides, if Cam Smith really turns it on, like those types of guys, that's how you get an extension. Or if you have a couple of, just prospects with helium this year, just guys that you've drafted in the last year or two that just, crush expectations, that's there. For Joe Espada, I mean, it's got to be, ALCS probably, I would imagine. Just because, again, it's going to depend on how the season turns out. But at a certain point with your manager, so much of that is tied to playoff success and decision making and all that kind of stuff. And even if you make the right decisions, somebody still has to go. And I can't see Crane keeping both of these guys if they don't make it back to the ALCS where they've been. You could just write them in every year to that. And if they're not there, I would imagine that Crane looks at that as a sign, as he says, he wants to keep the window open, but sometimes you might have to shut one window to open the next one. And so that, I think that might be the changing of the guard there.
It's weird. Like Lance McCullers Jr. said that exact same thing. Because, in reporting this story, the three players I talked to report this story were McCullers, Altuve, and Correa. Two guys that have been here for all 8 playoff runs, and one guy that was here for 5 of them and is now back again. And in asking them, the way I phrased the question was, the narrative out there is because you guys missed the playoffs that the window is closing. Like, how do you respond to that? Jose Altuve was kind of disinterested in the question and didn't really respond. Correa said that's impossible for us. Like, the window's not closed yet. And Lance was pretty diplomatic, and candid. Lance said, that part of our run is over. The part from 2017 to 2024 when they were in the playoffs in the ALCS 8 straight years. But he followed that by saying, now we got to start a new window. And he used the word retool. And the way I wrote it in my story was that retool and rebuild are like profanities within the Astros, because I'm here to tell you, Jim Crane does not want to rebuild. Like he said that. I mean, when he's saying that the window will never close while he's here, that is him telling you he does not want to do a rebuild. He does not want to tear down. He already did that, 10 years ago, or longer than that, like 15 years ago. And it worked famously for them, obviously. Like, look what it produced.
And it didn't work for most other teams.
Right.
And he's not stupid to look around and say, my team and the White Sox started rebuilding the same time, and I could still be in that position.
So the onus, I think you put it perfectly with Dana, Tyler. Like, look at Xavier Nayans' box scores all year. Look at Ethan Fry's box scores all year. Look at Kevin Alvarez's box scores all year. Walker Yannick. Like, all these guys, all these prospects that can be a part of that next window, they've got to take steps this year. And I'm not saying like Kevin Alvarez and Xavier Nayans, 2 teenagers. I'm not saying that they have to be like major league ready after this year, but they have to have good years. They have to have good years and show that they're on a little bit of an upward trajectory toward contributing to this, being viable pieces of this next core. Again, Cam Smith developing. Cam Smith is a piece of the next core if he develops. Him having a good season would very much help Dana Brown's case. Mike Burrows the same way. Mike Burrows is under club control for the next 6 years. Like, the names are there of the guys they need to help open that next window. They've got to perform this year, though. And I mean, I would not be, it's a tough place for Dana to be in, to have your fate in other people's hands, to have your fate in players' hands, but that's the occupation he chose. So you look at that, and then with Joe, again, Tyler, like, we have talked about this, like, when I've watched this team under Joe Espada's tenure, this does not look like a poorly managed team. This is not a situation where I think Joe Espada is a bad manager, where like this is a poorly managed team that doesn't do fundamental things well, that, is dogging it, that is not like trying hard, it's not giving effort. That has never been a problem in the 2 years that Joe Espada has managed this team. I don't think this is a situation where like Joe Espada like is managing, like, I don't think if Joe Espada is fired, if he doesn't get a new contract, I don't think it'll be a byproduct of him being a poor manager, a poor in-game tactician, like not keeping the clubhouse together. I think it'll just be, quite frankly, it'll be a situation where if the GM goes, the manager has to go too. Like, it would just be a complete house cleaning and to start anew, because again, like, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot to be in, and there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people this year to see if these two guys are the people to move this franchise forward.
Yeah, Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, just for the future of the Astros, these younger guys that they've acquired in the past year or two, that is your next window. You're gonna find out this year if that window is open or if it's not. Because even if they make the playoffs, but they're carried by, you know, great years from Pena, Correa, Altuve, and Yordan, that's not your next window. Like that's what's helping keep the window open. But the success of the future of your franchise depends on these younger guys, and they have to perform this year, or else you're not going in the right direction.
I think the other thing with Dana, and this got run on social media today, of course. Like I wrote a 2,500 word story, and the one thing that gets run is Dana talking about maybe extending Hunter Brown and Jeremy Pena. When we do the autopsy of Dana Brown's tenure as Astros general manager, whenever that is, whether it's this winter, whether it's 15 winters from now, the one thing that I think we will all circle back to is at the beginning of his tenure, how bullish he was about getting all these extensions done. He had been in Atlanta with Alex Anthopoulos, where they extended every young guy on Atlanta's team, and they created a core that's going to be together forever, or almost forever. And he hasn't backed it up. Like, if we're being completely honest, like I wouldn't say he got the Jose Altuve extension done. That was some other factors were involved in the Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve wanted that extension done. It got done. Christian Javier, he got the extension right after Dana got the job. That has, not turned out well, but I'm not sure. But look, guys get hurt. Sometimes this is what you have to do. Like you have to, when you talk about extending players, this is always the caveat, right? It's like, if you can do it, but just be prepared. Like it could go south. It could go wrong. Like you're gambling anytime you extend a young player like that, especially a pitcher. It happened with Javier. He had to have Tommy John. Okay. The fact that they have missed the boat on Jeremy Pena and Hunter Brown. And look, I'm not sitting here saying they can't get it done, but it would take something completely out of Jim Crane's comfort zone to extend either of those guys. And I'm not sure that Jim Crane wants to step out of his comfort zone for a GM that he has as a lame duck right now. So when we look back at it, I think we will look back at missing the boat on those guys to where those guys you could lump them in as they're part of the next core. Hunter Brown's here longer than Jeremy Pena, but Jeremy Pena has 2 seasons left as an Astro. Maybe one if they trade him this winter like they did with Kyle Tucker, which dovetails into this point. Dana Brown going on the flagship station his first year as general manager and saying Kyle Tucker will retire an Astro, and then not being able to extend him and trading him to the Cubs. It's a bad look. It just, like, there's no other way to put it, really. And when and I think the thing, and I wrote this in the story, front offices across the sport try to extend players and can't. Just because Dana Brown tried to extend Pena and Brown and Tucker and couldn't get it done, that's not an indictment on him as an executive. The problem is he had to have the wherewithal to understand where he works, right? Jim Crane's never given a free agent deal longer than 5 years. He has never guaranteed any free agent $100 million. He's never guaranteed any player, period, on any one contract, more than $151 million. So you have an owner that everything that he has done shows that he is not going to go spend lavishly in free agency. He will do a 2 or a 3 or a 4 year deal in free agency. He will not give a $100 million deal in free agency. He has not done that in his ownership tenure. When you have that, you have to understand that when you have those parameters in place, it is more incumbent upon you to be more aggressive early in these guys' careers and get them locked up. And the fact that he couldn't do that is something that I think he will regret. And again, I'm not sitting here saying he's done after this year. I would be saying this exact same thing in 5 years from now if Dana Brown was still the GM. Like, this is still a misstep. It's something that can be rectified. Look, if Dana can convince Jim Crane to step out of his comfort zone and get Pena or Brown extended, then we're having a completely different conversation. But I think when you start to look at the things that have put the team in this, and look, this is not all Dana Brown's fault. They had no draft picks in 20 and 21 because of the sign stealing scandal. Dana Brown inherited the contracts of Jose Abreu and Rafael Montero that very much hamstrung a lot of things he could do, especially with, like we said, an owner that spends money but is not going to spend at the Dodgers level or the Mets level or the Yankees level. So Dana inherited a tough spot, but there were things he could have done to make it a little less tough that he didn't do, and I think he'll regret those.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last year, but it's you have until like May of this year to extend Cam Smith. You know, like that's your window of extending guys like this, or even like Mike Burrows or whatever. Like those are the types of guys that you've got to extend early, and just really buy out and level out their arbitration years, and maybe buy a year or two of free agency. Those are the extensions that you can get. They're just not extending Pena or Brown. Like that's not happening.
And it would make, I mean, for them, for Pena especially, it would make no sense for Jeremy Pena to sign an extension. Hunter Brown's a little farther away from free agency. I still don't think it gets done, but Hunter Brown's farther away from free agency. That's a little more of a discussion, at least. Like Jeremy Pena is 2 seasons away from free agency, and he plays a premium position, and it would be foolish for him. And again, the only way it's not foolish is if the Astros blow him out of the water with an offer. And as we have talked about numerous times, this is not a franchise that has ever been one to blow guys out of the water with contract offers. So a lot riding on this season for a lot of different people. No bigger than Dana Brown and Joe Espada, who I would say that winning the World Series would keep their jobs, but we have proof that you can win the World Series and still not feel completely safe in a Jim Crane run operation. But I don't think they'd complain, though. I don't think Dana Brown or Joe Espada would complain about the Astros winning a World Series. So in that vein, we'll leave you with this. Fangraphs every year. And it's one thing, like during the season, it's fun to keep up with the playoff odds, but they do preseason playoff odds every year. And this year, if you're watching on YouTube, you can look. These are the American League playoff odds. There are 8 teams that have higher playoff odds in the American League than the Astros going into the season, which is pretty remarkable, Tyler. There are 2 in their own division that have higher playoff odds in the Seattle Mariners and the Texas Rangers. I don't necessarily buy the Rangers, but to each their own. But that's a sobering look at things. When you're going into, especially coming off of what they have done for the last 10 years of this run, to come into a season and you have the 8th highest odds in the American League to make the playoffs, it's a pretty sobering sight there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those are, in the same division. Like to me, I think 1 or 2 of those AL East teams is so much better than the other. I don't think we're going to see all of them kind of finish close to each other. I don't buy the Red Sox being as good as that projection is, especially with the losing Bregman and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I think that they sneak in that first or second wild card spot, but it's down to the last week or so. I think the Mariners are really good. I just don't buy the Rangers sticking around. I think they have too much injury risk. Too much is relying on, the top end of their rotation that, could go a lot of different ways. But yeah, I think the Astros get into the playoffs. But I mean, again, this is a totally different part of the window than it was 5 years ago, where it's just what day do the Astros have the division wrapped up? That's not happening.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick against the Mariners in this division. The Mariners have a better roster than the Astros. The Mariners are up and down the roster a better team than the Astros. Now, that doesn't mean the Astros can't win the division. This is baseball. Like, Very rarely does the best team in baseball actually win the World Series. That very rarely happens. Just ask the 2019 Astros.
Come on.
That being said, it's hard for me on March 24th to pick against the Mariners in the division. So that would leave the Astros in a fight for their lives in the wild card. I tend to agree with you that I think they will find a way into the playoffs. This team won 87 games last year with Yordan Alvarez barely playing. And with that inundation of injuries last year, they still won 87 games. They finished a game out of the playoffs last year. I do think this team makes the playoffs. As it's currently constructed, do I think this is a World Series team? I do not. But the one thing you can always say about Jim Crane is if they get to the trade deadline and they have a legitimate shot at contention, a legitimate shot at a championship, Jim Crane's one of the most aggressive owners out there at the deadline. Dana Brown's going to be uber aggressive in the last year of his deal, presuming he is running the trade deadline. Joe Espada is going to manage with a little bit more urgency, though he'll never say it publicly. I'd imagine he will. And, look, I think the goal for them now has to be get to the deadline in contention. Because if you get to the deadline and you're in contention, you've shown that you have an owner and a general manager that are aggressive enough that they will go out and get you what you need to get over the top. And then after that, it's on the players. But I tend to agree with you. I think they will make the playoffs. I don't think they're built for a deep playoff run, but the playoffs are a crapshoot. And as has been evidenced by a lot of teams in the last 5-10 years, all you got to do is get in. And once you get in, anything can happen. And when you have Hunter Brown atop your rotation, and if Mike Burrows and Tatsuya Imai even are a modicum of what they were in spring training, you could do a lot worse than running those three guys out in a playoff series. So we'll see. We'll be around for all of it here on Crush City territory. Thank you all for bearing with us as I navigated this hellscape of a great program that we love and we're going to use, and we love doing it. We love eCam. It's awesome. You can watch us do it again, probably after opening day on Thursday. We'll record one Thursday. This is me telling you, Tyler, we're recording one Thursday night after,
good to know.
After opening day. We'll be back then. We'll overreact to 1 out of 162. But until then, you can follow me on X at Chandler_Rome. You can follow Tyler at Tyler C. Stafford. Please rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. Please like the YouTube video. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That very much helps us out. We'll be back after opening day on Thursday. If you're going, enjoy the game. If you're doing anything in Houston this weekend, a sports-filled weekend in Houston, enjoy everything, and we will talk to you after opening day.
Bye.